and Connor Lamb. Kevin, you know these are two congressmen from Pennsylvania, and I'm going to guess they're scared stiff. What is Glenn Thompson, the moderate Republican, telling his Republicans? What is Connor Lamb, the moderate Democrat, telling Speaker Pelosi?
Well, GT is saying essentially that he is going to be able to deliver to Happy Valley and State College the type of economic relief that many higher education institutions are needing right now. He is a moderate Republican, but he's also in the backyard of Penn State University. So he's one of those lawmakers who's heavily influenced by the battles of higher education in rural communities.
Yeah, but Kevin, I don't mean to interrupt, but this is absolutely critical. What is the urgency of Glenn Thompson now to go over to Leader McConnell and say, grow up and get this done?
It's incredibly urgent because for these rank and file members, for Connor Lamb specifically, who at one point was hailed as the future of the Democratic Party and by all accounts, according to sources I talk with, has a bright political future ahead of him. He has to be able to go back to these battleground districts and say that they are providing economic relief, not for big businesses, not for Wall Street, but for the small businesses in their backyard. And that's why you're seeing this shift in tone coming from leadership yesterday, Tom, as President Trump has suggested that he's going to have to use executive power in order to go around some of the stalemates coming from the halls of Congress.
We can get into those executive powers in just a moment. Here's a line for you. If you look for total consensus among Senate Republicans, you're not going to find it. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. What and who does Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell turn his back on in the next few days?
I think at this point, from Leader McConnell's perspective, he has dug in on liability protections. I feel like a broken record when I continue to say that. But from that standpoint, he also has to form a coalition. There was another remark that he made in those remarks yesterday, Jonathan, where he noted that 15 to 20, by his count, by the leader's count, 15 to 20 Republicans are not on board with these types of with the Republican caucus. He can't deliver an entire caucus right now. So that's why these negotiations are even more crucial, because when 15 to 20 members of the Republican caucus are saying that they have an issue with this type of stimulus, they're nowhere near the type of unison that typically Leader McConnell wants to see.
Kevin, the president speaking openly now about going it alone, flying solo, executive action. Politico reporting in the last 24 hours, 3 options on the table for him. Delaying the collection of payroll taxes. He's been very outspoken publicly about that, but also doing something on eviction protection, and then going even further, extending enhanced unemployment benefits by using the money that Congress has been assigned to spend but has not used yet. Kevin, on those 3 issues right now, is this really doable?
Yes, and you know, there's this great tool on the Bloomberg terminal where you can actually track, based upon public data, where the money from the last stimulus has actually gone all throughout the country. And the reason I bring this up is because it really illustrates that it's not just cities that have benefited from this economic stimulus, and that's why you're hearing this change in tone coming from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, because they know that whether it's in Center County, Pennsylvania, where Congressman Thompson represents, or in the Bronx, that you're seeing individuals and constituents take advantage, I don't want to say take advantage, but utilize the access to capital that has been made available to them. That's not a Republican nor a Democratic advantage. And that's why the president is trying to specifically say that if these blue-collar workers can't get access to those funds, that he's going to have to use executive order while Leader McConnell and Speaker Pelosi continue to work out a deal.
The $600 enhanced unemployment benefit that President Trump is throwing his weight behind extending is really significant because it flies against the calls of some Republicans in particular that have become fiscal hawks. I'm wondering, President Trump, not known as being a fiscal hawk by any stretch of the imagination, is he lining up in some ways more on the Democratic side?
On this particular issue, you are absolutely correct. There are many Republicans, whether it's Senator Ted Cruz, for example, who are incredibly uncomfortable with getting on board with this type of spending. And in fact, Leader McConnell has said that he believes those arguments are justified. But in terms of where the president is going, he has to go on the campaign trail and is fighting for a tough tough re-election battle, and he's got to be able to go to many of these states to workers who are unable to find work right now or unable to get back into the economy through no fault of their own given the pandemic. And he's got to be able to look them in the eyes and say, vote for me again. And so in order for him to do that, this is the type of economic relief that is needed.
Kevin, just quickly, some clarity on an important thing. For people outside of the United States not following this, how many fiscal hawks in the Senate right now are actually standing for election this November?
I would say that there's a handful, but I promise you I'll get you the exact number. I don't have it off the top of my head, but there's a handful who are in incredibly tough fights. You look at Senator Joni Ernst; she's the one that really comes to mind. She's a Republican from Iowa and is very conservative on the economy, and now she's facing a very progressive challenger. So for her, it's interesting because she's got to get the rural Iowa vote on board. They're very concerned about government spending, but she also has to get some swing voters and try to push her challenger to and paint her challenger, portray her challenger as a very far left Democratic socialist.
Free spending left radical.
Yeah.
Kevin, great to catch up with you. As
Thank
always,
you.
Kevin Cerruti down in Washington, D.C.